Hello and welcome. This is Mouse Gunner, and I've been showing in the last few videos some siege engines, and I felt like I should show things from the other side rather than being offense. We're going to be showing some defense. So we're going to be showing a little bit of things with walls and seeing how well they hold up to being attacked by these siege engines. Now, before I've shown tests with sloped walls and straight walls of pretty standard structure. This time I feel like I should use the newer rounded structure blocks to see how they fare. So I use the thinner thickness, the standard wall thickness, rounded blocks here in the front. Then I put a flat wall behind that, and I top it off with these wooden floors just to so there's not a hole there, so you could actually walk on it. And then I put another thin wall in the back and an arch on the top. And that is very similar to the wall as it is constructed over here. So it's pretty much the same thing as this flat wall over here. You just have these rounded wall pieces in front of that. Now over here we have the solid rounded blocks in front, and then we have a solid straight block behind it. Then the same kind of thing here with the thinner walls and an arch, then another solid square block. And that is replicating the same thing that this wall is made out of, more or less, structure-wise, other than, again, the rounded blocks in front. And then lastly, our third structure, because I couldn't figure out a way to just add on these, these wider rounded angles onto a straight wall, I just made a rounded structure, a tower, and this uses the two wide rounded walls, but just the thinner thickness. And we'll see how these all hold up. Now, and theoretically speaking, these should hold up better than a straight wall. If you're familiar with tank armor, it's better to have sloped armor or rounded armor because with sloped or rounded armor, although the overall thickness might be the same as flat armor, the actual amount of material that the projectile has to pass through can be greater depending on what angle that armor is struck at. So the same kind of concept should hold true for a wall. And historically, that is the reason why castles were switched from being square towers to rounded towers. Because of that. And also, if you don't have a straight-on blow with the catapult ball with a rounded surface like that, it could glance off in theory. And we have seen that with the sloped wall over there, that blows that come at certain angles will just skip off rather than actually doing very much damage. So in theory, that's what may happen here. Now I already have 3 catapults set up, roughly the same distance for all these walls. I'm using catapults rather than the character tool to shoot these catapult balls because I want more consistency, and I feel like by using the same catapult at the same distance, roughly, I'm going to get more or less the same results. Now, it's going to be a little tricky getting the aim in and ranging these things in. I'm not really sure how ranged in these are because, to range in a catapult, you have to let it go, and if it's in range, it will smash the wall and kind of defeats my test if the wall's already smashed before I show you guys. So let's go ahead and shoot this off. I'm hoping this is in range. I just kind of guesstimated things, and hopefully we're accurate. Looks like we went a little over top, maybe striking the top of the structure, which honestly is not really what I wanted to have happen. But it shouldn't affect the rounded structure, so I'm going to let that go. So it looks like we need to push it back just maybe 10 feet. So let's go ahead and do that. And again, I apologize for that. I tried to have these things set up ahead of time, but as I said, it's kind of hard to range these things in when you don't really know. You just have to kind of guesstimate. I wasn't too far off, maybe a little bit back. And let's see how we're doing as far as aim, because sometimes when you push things back, it kind of moves along the terrain. Maybe a little bit to the right. Let's bump that over to the left a little bit. And hopefully we're on target. That might be a little bit too much to the left now. Just a little slight tap, maybe. Alright. I think I'm happy with that. So let's go ahead and go. So this is a little slower doing it this way, obviously, but As I said, I want that consistency that you're going to get out of a made structure like this, and I think it's also a little bit more realistic, the kind of velocities you're going to expect, which you can way exceed with the character tool. So hopefully that's on target. It looks like it is. It's a little low, but it did strike. Now, as far as the damage assessment goes, it's kind of hard to tell as far as damage-wise. If that's much better than just the normal flat wall, we can actually simulate that. Rather than move that catapult, which is going to take time, I'll just copy and paste a catapult in here at the distance we need. I came a little bit prepared, so it was already on my clipboard. Now I just need to aim it on. We're a little bit further back, so probably need to push the thing forward. Okay, we got roughly the same distance. And let's make sure that our aim is good. Aim is sometimes one of the trickier things to figure out. Because of the natures of catapults and the fact that they tend to skip a little bit when they shoot, which can throw off your accuracy. Alright, so let's go ahead and throw this at the straight wall and see if we have much of a difference. So that looks like it's on target, unfortunately a little low, and that kind of botches the test because I don't think it hit flush. But I'm going to say I think the damage was roughly the same. I don't really, to me, it doesn't seem like it was all that different. It hit a little bit lower on the wall. Maybe if we push the thing forward a little bit and we shoot another one at it, we'll do a comparison again. This is the thing that's kind of tricky about these tests, is it's kind of hard to get consistency sometimes as far as accuracy goes, and also in just results. You do have a little bit of variability with each of these, and maybe a little bit to the left here. There we go. And let's shoot another one. Alright. And let her go. That might be a little bit to the right. Yeah, that hit the wrong wall, I think. Yeah, that kind of hit in between the walls. But I'm going to shoot one more with the rounded structure, but I honestly don't think that it... I don't think that... Alright, you know what we'll do? Because this seemingly is going to be hard to get the accuracy I require, I am going to use that character tool. Didn't really want to, but I don't feel like I have a choice here, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the character tool, use a large stone, and we're just going to try and be as consistent as we can. So I'm going to aim here, I'm going to count to 2, 1, 2, and there she goes. So that's the damage that a 2 count did on a straight wall like that. So let's do the same thing here. 1, 2. Looks like it did less damage, although you do have to consider that there is a slightly different structure here, but that one ball went all the way through the wall. Frankly, I kind of noticed some freeze up there, and I wonder if the velocity was the same. It didn't look like it was. So we'll try this one more time. 1, 2. Alright, that velocity looked a little bit closer. And it looks like this wall does hold up a little bit better. Because as we saw here with that 2 count, it literally went through one side and out the other. Now this is power you wouldn't see in a catapult. As we saw earlier when I hit with the catapult, there's no way it would have just blown through both walls. But we see here with the round structure, it did seemingly work a little bit, as the behind structure was not damaged nearly as badly as it was in the previous example. Okay, so now let's try it on the solid blocks, and we'll do one on the straight wall first. 1, 2, and there's our damage, pretty severe. Let's do, I'm trying to keep the same distance. 1, 2, and I I would say, damage-wise, it looks a little bit better. It does. I mean, it looked like it did destroyed the front layer of blocks, but over here on the straight wall, it seemed like it did. It's still only one layer of blocks, but it seems like radius-wise, it did a lot more damage. So maybe that's part of the benefit here, is it gives you less surface area that it's hitting, which seems to make it a little bit better. All right, and lastly, let's see how this one does. So I'm trying to be roughly the same distance. 1, 2, and yeah. Okay, so we see that did punch through pretty easily, but I'm not seeing any interior damage. Now, we don't have a wall directly behind it to really judge that, but I'm not seeing the ball went through, whereas with the other straight walls, not straight walls, thinner walls, what we saw was the tendency for the ball to go through one layer and then hit another layer behind it. Now, again, that might have been something that was just as it was breaking up, it hit, so because that had more space, it allowed for the ball to break up and be harmless. But I am kind of noticing it does seem like these rounded structures do offer a benefit, but the benefit I'm seeing is it doesn't necessarily hold up better against the catapult ball, but what it does is it makes it so the catapult ball contacts a smaller surface area and localizes the damage rather than spreading it out. I think this is the best indicator of that, in that the damaged area on the flat wall is much wider than it is on this rounded wall. I think the damage actually is pretty much the same, but the overall width of the damage is reduced. So it does seem like it does offer a benefit. I don't think, from what I've seen, and I'm trying to be roughly the same distance. 1, 2. It doesn't seemingly offer the same benefit that sloped armor does. I still think sloped armor is king. As far as I say armor, I guess walls, sloped walls, is still king, because as you saw there, very minimal damage. Same count, 1, 2, as scientific as that is. And we see that the damage is not nearly as bad, and we also saw how the catapult ball deflected off up in the air when it struck. And we can do that again. 1, 2. Okay, well, that one did a lot more damage, so apparently that one didn't deflect. So the first shot deflected, which is what we want to see happen. This one didn't. It spread the damage a lot more, but in my opinion, it seems like, to me, the damage is not nearly as severe as it is with the straight or rounded wall. But it looks like these rounded walls do offer a benefit, and I will also point out that although, in my opinion, sloped walls are still king, they do take quite a lot of materials to build. As you can see here, this is all solid stone all the way out here. So this sloped wall would take a lot more construction material than, for instance, this wall or this wall would. And frankly, from what I'm seeing here, I feel like adding this little bit of thinner rounded wall is giving yourself adequate protection against catapults, because it did punch through that outer layer, but it had a harder time punching through the second layer, which would have been our actual interior wall if this was a castle, for instance. So in that regard, I do think that the rounded structures give you some benefits, and maybe adding this onto your more squared off castles is a good idea to do, just to add a little bit of extra protection at not a whole lot of cost, if we were to think about costs in the survival world when that is implemented. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and a look at the rounded blocks and how well they hold up. This test wasn't necessarily perfect or scientific, but I think it did demonstrate what we can expect out of them. In any case, this is Mouse Gunner, signing out.